Folks, Jon Hamm, the iconic face of American television, captured millions with his role as Don Draper in Mad Men*, a character defined by calm sophistication, polished charm, and a rare emotional depth. After decades of dedication, he's built a fortune worth tens of millions of dollars, owns a stunning home in the Hollywood Hills, drives luxury cars, and lives what seems like a picture-perfect life. But is that polished image truly complete? A struggle with alcohol that landed him in rehab, a college-era scandal involving violence that nearly derailed his entire career. These chapters raise a question: is his recent, low-key marriage a sign of Jon's recovery, or just a mask hiding something deeper? Let's step behind the spotlight to see Jon Hamm not as a character, but as a man with his wounds, his choices, and the lessons that shape the success he enjoys today. Folks, Jon Hamm faced a loss so profound it could have broken even the strongest among us, losing both his parents before he even turned 20. But how did a young boy, carrying a grief that seemed insurmountable, rise above it all to build a multi-million-dollar empire? Jon Hamm was born on the 10th of March, 1971, in St. Louis, Missouri, a quiet slice of Middle America. The only child of a middle-class family, he grew up in a modest home with the same ordinary dreams as any other kid. But at just 10 years old, Jon's world was shattered by a loss few could imagine. His mother, Deborah, passed away after a battle with cancer. Losing his mother so young brought Jon's childhood to a screeching halt. He moved in with his father, but their bond was fragile and subdued. Jon began to withdraw, living in silence, haunted by guilt that he couldn't do anything to keep his mother with him. He'd wake up in the middle of the night, shaken by nightmares of her final moments in the hospital. Friends drifted away, unable to grasp the sorrow that grew alongside him every day. 10 years later, at the age of 20, Jon's father passed away too. He was now officially an orphan, no home, no immediate family by his side. What followed were years of leaning on distant relatives, grappling with loneliness, financial hardship, and unnamed emotional struggles. In that darkness, a spark of light appeared, of all places, on his high school stage. Jon stumbled into a school play and, for the first time, discovered he could become someone else through emotion and spotlight. Each moment on stage was a chance to step away from his painful past, to live fully in a new world, one free of grief, filled only with the role he played and a sense of freedom. From a boy who'd lost everything, Jon found unexpected solace in art. It wasn't just a hobby, it was a temporary escape from the heartache of his reality. Folks, with no family, no money, and no one to back him, Jon Hamm arrived in Hollywood chasing a fragile dream. Before fame found him, he hit rock bottom, waiting tables to survive, facing dozens of rejections, and even getting dropped by his own agency. But then, a role no one expected opened the door to his destiny. In 1995, at 24 years old, Jon Hamm drove an old Toyota more than 2,000 miles from St. Louis to Los Angeles. He carried a suitcase of clothes, a few $100s in his pocket, and a dream most of his acquaintances thought was pure fantasy. In an interview with Esquire, Jon once said, "I didn't come to LA because I thought I'd make it. I just knew I couldn't not try." He worked as a waiter in an Italian restaurant, crashed on friends' couches, and kept his orphan childhood under wraps. For years, he auditioned everywhere, only to hear rejections like "too old," "not current," or worse, "we're looking for someone else." Vanity Fair called this period the longest years of Jon Hamm's life, filled with silence and disappointment. In 1998, Jon signed with an acting agency, only to be cut loose after 3 years because no one would hire him. But a small break came. In 2000, he landed a guest spot on NBC's Providence, his first role on national television that same year. He had a minor part in Clint Eastwood's Space Cowboys, though he was on screen for just a few minutes. It was enough for casting directors to jot his name down as one to watch. Around 2003, Jon went to an audition for a major film. Walking into the room, he froze, recognizing the director as someone who'd rejected him 3 years earlier, without a hint of bitterness. The director looked at Jon and said, "Now you're ready." He didn't get the part, but that moment told him, "I'm getting closer." The real turning point came in 2007 when he was cast as Don Draper in Mad Men*. The role was initially pitched to established stars, but director Matthew Weiner insisted on Jon. In an interview, Weiner said, "Jon didn't play Don Draper, he was Don Draper." After just a few episodes, Jon became a sensation. His image gray suit, smoldering cigarette, unreadable eyes graced the covers of *GQ*, *Esquire*, and *Rolling Stone*, but behind the glamour. Jon admitted in a 2015 NPR interview, "I wasn't sure I really belonged here." From a nameless waiter to a red carpet star with hundreds of cameras trained on him, deep down, was there still a part of him that felt like that lost boy from years ago? Folks, when Mad Men* hit the airwaves in 2007, no one expected a series about the 1960s advertising world to shake up American television. But more than the story, the one who kept viewers glued to their screens was Jon Hamm. As Don Draper, a polished, enigmatic, deeply wounded man, Jon didn't just act, he became the character. Critics called him the last true leading man of the small screen, a classic archetype in a changing era. The role earned him 2 Golden Globe Awards, 6 Emmy nominations, and finally, a long-awaited Best Actor Emmy win in 2015 after 8 seasons. Jon's paycheck grew with each season from $75,000 per episode in the early days to over $275,000 per episode by the end, making him one of the highest-paid TV actors of his time. From Mad Men, alone, he pocketed over $12 million, and that was just the beginning. From an actor once dismissed as too old-fashioned, Jon became a symbol of old-school masculinity, a charisma rooted not in muscles, but in a piercing gaze that seemed to carry a hidden past. He went on to leave his mark in major films like The Town*, in 2010, Bridesmaids*, in 2011, Baby Driver*, in 2017, and Top Gun Maverick*, in 2022. In 2022 alone, his earnings were estimated to top $5 million. Today, Jon Hamm's net worth is pegged at around $45 million, the fruit of nearly 2 decades of persistence in the entertainment world. And with that wealth, he didn't just buy fame, he bought a place to truly belong. After years of scraping by, renting month to month, and crashing on friends' couches, Jon Hamm could finally do something his childhood self never dreamed of: buy a real home of his own. In 2013, he spent about $2.5 million on a 2-story villa tucked away in a private enclave of the Hollywood Hills, built in the 1960s but renovated in a modern, minimalist style. The house features floor-to-ceiling glass walls with sweeping views of the Los Angeles Valley. Each morning, sunlight filters through the surrounding trees, spilling into the white oak-floored living room where Jon reads or sips coffee with his dog. Murphy, the villa, nearly 3,000 square feet, has 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a small library, and a crescent-shaped pool perched on the hillside's edge. Out back, a stone-paved patio hosts quiet BBQ gatherings with close friends. No media, no fuss, just laughter and the soft glow of a fire. Inside, every detail reflects Jon: a floor-to-ceiling bookshelf, a vintage vinyl record collection, black and white photos of New York City streets from his early struggling days. In an interview, he once said, "I picked this place not for status, but for the feeling when I first walked in. It felt like me." After marrying actress Ana Osceola in 2023, he bought a second home on the coast in Santa Barbara. Unlike the Hollywood villa, this one embraces Spanish Revival architecture, terracotta tile roofs, white arched doorways, a courtyard fragrant with lavender and ancient olive trees. It's not a showpiece, but a retreat. Jon and Ana use it as a weekend escape, spending time on yoga, cooking, and caring for their pets. The combined value of Jon's real estate is estimated at $7 million. Both homes owned outright, a testament to the financial stability and independence he built from nothing. If a home is where Jon returns, his cars are where he escapes. No flashy supercars or attention-grabbing convertibles cruising Sunset Boulevard. Jon picks vehicles that let him blend in, unnoticed behind the wheel. For years, he's driven a dark gray Mercedes-Benz E350, a luxury sedan worth about $60,000. Its understated exterior and black leather interior offer near-silent comfort when the doors close. He drives it through the Hollywood Hills at dawn or dusk when the city's still waking or settling into twilight, not to get somewhere, but to be alone. Another favorite is his jet black Range Rover autobiography, priced at around $150,000. It's his ride for weekend getaways to Santa Barbara or Joshua Tree's Desert, with walnut wood trim, deep brown leather seats, and a Meridian sound system. It's like a mobile lounge. He once joked in an interview, "It's my hideout, just missing a fireplace." Jon also owns a silver BMW X5, a mid-range sport SUV valued at about $80,000. It's his go-to for everyday work, understated yet powerful and versatile. Paparazzi once caught him driving it to a studio for *Minions voice work. Calm, quiet, no entourage, no fuss. No Italian supercars, no million-dollar classics. Each car Jon Hamm chooses is like a hidden piece of his personality, introspective, authentic, and always keeping a distance. They don't scream wealth, they reflect how he lives with it. His car collection is worth an estimated $300,000, modest for Hollywood, but perfectly in tune with the private life he's chosen. But after the drives, when the engines go quiet and the city slips into night, what truly brings Jon peace? Despite gracing the covers of fashion magazines, Jon Hamm has never lived like a typical celebrity. He skips late-night parties and only attends glitzy Oscar galas when he must. His daily life, surprisingly, feels so relatable you might forget you're talking about an Emmy-winning TV star. Each morning, Jon's up by 6, brewing coffee with a manual press and spending at least 30 minutes reading books or newspapers. He loves classic novels, especially Hemingway and Raymond Carver, and jots down quotes by hand to remember them. Then he takes his curly-haired mutt, Murphy, for a walk through the hills near his Hollywood home. Jon keeps a steady exercise routine, not for looks but for his mind. He runs 3 to 4 times a week, pairs it with yoga to ease stress and stay balanced, all without a personal trainer or trendy gym, just old sneakers, a jazz playlist, and the familiar path behind his house. His diet mirrors this balanced approach: lean proteins, greens, no refined sugars, he once told an interviewer. "The older I get, the more I realize the real luxury is waking up clear-headed every morning." Beyond work and health, Jon fills his time with simple pleasures: cooking with his wife, restoring an old wooden table in the yard, or spending hours listening to vintage vinyl records from Miles Davis to Bruce Springsteen. He avoids sharing his personal life online, steers clear of Instagram, and only shows up at events for professional reasons, not to chase fame. In a world where everything's on display, Jon Hamm chooses a private, deliberate, almost counter-Hollywood way of living. But beneath that calm exterior, is there something Jon still hasn't fully faced? For a long time, Jon Hamm avoided the idea of family. Losing both parents before 21 left a void that wasn't easy to fill. In a 2017 interview, he admitted, "When you grow up with no one around, you're not sure if you deserve anyone's commitment." For years, Jon lived alone. He had long-term relationships, but they ended quietly. Close friends described him as a kind man who feared being tied down. That changed when he met Anna Osceola, his *Mad Men* co-star from the series finale, who stood by him through his toughest years. They went public with their relationship in 2020, and after 3 years together, they married in a private ceremony in Big Sur's Valley in June of 2023. No lavish wedding, no exclusive magazine spread, just close friends, the sound of ocean waves, and a middle-aged man who'd finally found a place to rest his trust. Jon once spoke of Anna with a subtle smile. "She makes me feel like I don't have to keep my guard up anymore." Since marrying, he's appeared with her at rare events, and they're often spotted walking together in Santa Barbara or running errands like any ordinary couple. In the community, Jon quietly supports charities from cancer research funds in memory of his mother to campaigns raising awareness about men's mental health. He's worked with Bring Change to Mind to discuss depression, a topic he rarely opens up about but carries deeply. Unlike many Hollywood stars, Jon's impact isn't loud but in his way of living, loving, and giving. He's slowly redefining legacy not through awards, but through reconnecting with his truest self, For Jon Hamm, the greatest success isn't Don Draper, it's daring to believe he's worthy of love. Folks, he once had the world admiring his suave looks and cool-headed charm, but few knew that when the stage lights went dark. Jon Hamm faced shadows no one could see, a secret from his college days, silent struggles with addiction, and an inner battle no script could guide him through. In Hollywood, where everything seems picture perfect, Jon Hamm was once considered safe, a mature leading man with a clean reputation, but behind closed doors, he was fighting a war with himself. In 2015, as Mad Men neared its final season, Jon quietly checked into a rehab center in Connecticut to address his alcohol dependency. No scandals, no paparazzi frenzy. He walked in on his own, right when his career was at its peak. This wasn't a stumble, it was a deliberate choice to keep himself from falling further. Around the same time, an old buried story resurfaced, an incident at the University of Texas in 1990, where Jon was accused of involvement in a fraternity hazing ritual with violent elements, though no charges were filed and the matter had long been settled. Some outlets dredged it up as if it were an unresolved piece of his life. Jon didn't dodge it. He spoke publicly, owning up to his youthful mistakes and expressing shame, but also making it clear, "I'm not that person anymore." Since then, Jon slowed down. He committed to regular therapy, scaled back on film projects, and stepped away from glitzy events. No longer the commanding Don Draper on screen. In real life, he embraced a humble, steady, almost surprisingly quiet existence for many in the industry. That choice, made when he could have been milking the spotlight, was the strongest proof of his genuine transformation. Those who once doubted him fell silent. Those who'd praised him started seeing him differently, not just as a talented actor, but as a man who'd cleansed himself of burdens no one else could lift for him. So, in the end, what's the most important role in Jon Hamm's life, the man on the screen, or the man who learned to face himself off camera? Folks, he's played men full of contradictions on the screen, but in real life, Jon Hamm's most important role has no director, no script, just the daily choice to live with kindness, even when no one's watching, and that's where his true legacy begins to take shape. When you talk about Jon Hamm's legacy, Don Draper might come to mind, one of the most iconic TV characters of the early 21st century. But what he leaves behind goes beyond those captivating eyes or sharp-witted lines. Jon's legacy is in how he lives after stepping out of that role. Mad Men wasn't just a hit series, it ushered in a new era for American television, where deep, introspective acting and razor-sharp writing took center stage. Jon wasn't just the face of that wave, he was proof that a career can start late and still reach the top. He was 36 when fame hit, but it was a steady flame, not a fleeting spark. Off-screen, Jon Hamm leaves a quiet but steadfast mark on his community. He supports campaigns for men's mental health, funds education and healthcare organizations, yet rarely puts his name on the marquee. He's also openly backed progressive candidates like Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, not for publicity, but because he believes justice and compassion shouldn't take a back seat to fame. For older audiences, Jon Hamm isn't some newfangled TV heartthrob. He's a model of someone who's been broken, doubted himself, but chose to mend, chose to rebuild from the inside out. Today, standing beside his beloved wife, living in a modest home outside the city, Jon is no longer Don Draper. He doesn't need to be anyone else. He just needs to be himself, something it took nearly a lifetime to embrace. From an orphan boy in St. Louis to an American television icon, Jon Hamm's story isn't about perfection. It's about the journey to rediscover himself, one step at a time. So, what about you? Have you ever had to learn how to start over?